And a large-scale DNA sampling drive is underway to identify the victims of the airplane crash in Ahmedabad. Forensic teams are working continuously to identify victims of the Air India plane crash, and DNA test results are expected within the next 72 hours. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi visited the crash site in Ahmedabad today. Prime Minister Modi also visited the hospital to meet the lone survivor of the crash. Now, to get you up to speed with all the latest developments, a London-bound passenger jet crashed in Ahmedabad on Thursday, killing at least 265 people. Now, that's the official figure that we're getting right now. And these people were on board and also on the ground. And one passenger has miraculously survived. The 40-year-old Ramesh Kumar is the sole survivor of the crash. The government has opened a formal investigation into the cause of the crash. Air India CEO Campbell Vinson arrived at the plane crash site today. Rescue teams are meanwhile working well into Friday afternoon, scouring the charred wreckage with sniffer dogs. Deputy Commissioner of Police Kannan Desai told reporters, and he said that 265 bodies have reached the hospital so far. India's Civil Aviation Authority said 2 pilots and 10 cabin crew were among the 242 people on board. Air India said there were 169 Indian passengers, 53 British nationals, 7 Portuguese and a Canadian national on board the flight bound for London's Gatwick Airport. Now, that suggests that at least 24 people died when the jet ploughed into a medical staff hostel in a blazing fireball, and that the toll may rise further as more bodies are located. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer said the scenes from the crash were devastating, while the country's King Charles III said he was desperately shocked.
The investigation is going on. We've dispatched an investigation team that's been deployed. The Foreign Secretary is leading on this, and we'll obviously update as soon as we can. But we're working with the Indian authorities on this to establish the facts. I would say to all families, friends of anybody affected to please contact the Foreign Office for further information.
Right. A London-bound passenger jet that had crashed in Ahmedabad on Thursday, killing at least 265 people on board and also on the ground. And out of these passengers, 1 passenger has miraculously survived. 40-year-old Ramesh Kumar is the sole survivor of the crash. The government has meanwhile opened a formal investigation into the cause of the crash. Air India CEO Campbell Vinson arrived at the plane crash site today. Rescue teams are meanwhile working well into the Friday afternoon, scouring the charred wreckage with sniffer dogs. Deputy Commissioner of Police Kannan Desai had told reporters that 265 bodies have reached the hospital. And for more on this, we're now being joined by Captain Ehsan Khalid. He's a veteran IAF pilot, ex-airline captain, instructor and examiner. He's an aviation expert with over 40 years of experience. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us on the broadcast at Beyond World is One.
All right, very tragic accident, and we have been covering, and you have been covering it very nicely and very professionally. It is wrong for us to conjecture the reason and the fault that would have caused such a tragic accident. However, as professionals, what we are seeing in the visuals is that the aircraft has taken off from the runway and thereafter gained height, which does not look to be what we are reporting, 400 feet or 600 feet. It looks to be much lesser. And at one point of time, everything seems to be okay, and thereafter the aircraft starts to descend. If we were to look at purely from the technical point of view, the aircraft can lose this particular, can start to descend to make a collision or impact is only because of loss of power or loss of lift. If I was to talk about loss of power, that means the thrusts being produced by both the engines are not sufficient to sustain the flight. The reason for loss of power can be bird hit, can be technical malfunction, mechanical fault, software fault, electronic fault, a whole lot of reason why the engines are not producing the required amount of power. That's loss of power. Loss of power leads to the other problem also, that is loss of lift. Because if there is not sufficient power, the aircraft will not accelerate and create sufficient lift. And in that scenario, once again, the aircraft will have to continue descend down, and that's what it did. That seems to be one of the most probable reason for a catastrophic event like this. However, an outside chance is also because of loss of lift. As I said, loss of power leads to loss of lift. Even without the loss of power, there could have been loss of lift, which can happen because of weather circumstances like, downdraft, winds changing, which doesn't seem to be the condition existing there. The second reason is the loss of lift of the aircraft, that is the lift over the wing, can happen because the aircraft flaps, which changes the shape of the wing, and it is the shape of the wing that actually creates the lift for the aircraft when the aircraft is moving forward. So when the flaps are taken down for the takeoff, the shape is able to give more lift, and the aircraft continues to climb up and accelerate. However, if due to any reason the flaps auto-retract or flaps retract, that means the flap that was supposed to be there is not there and it has gone up, then there would be a sudden loss of lift. In this case, if at that place the flaps did go up, then the loss of lift can be as much as 30%, and it will lead the aircraft to continue to descend the way it did. Why will the flaps retract? There could be 1,000 reasons for it. A loss of power leads to loss of electrical and hydraulic failure, and all these can trigger a sense to the aircraft system, which has got a flap automatic retraction mechanism to prevent overload in case of high airspeed conditions. So there could be a malfunction due to bird hit, in which your airspeed indicators are also not giving right indication, and they actually give you the input that the aircraft is at a high speed and retract the flaps, and automatically it retracts. So a variety of combinations can actually happen. Can there be a software glitch that can give a wrong signal to the aircraft automation system to retract the flaps? And there could also be an outside chance that it was also retracted because of the situation that commanded the pilot to ask for a flap retraction. So, in my opinion, there is no way that we can conclude except the fact that the landing gear was down. In all probability, it should have been up. The reason for the landing gear being down could also be loss of engine power, because if there is a loss of engine power, the aircraft is actually electro-hydraulic and the landing gear won't go up. So the landing gear continues to remain down is a point of investigation, and that could have happened because of loss of power as well. It could have happened because of loss of electrical signals also. So multiple events unfolding. We know that Ahmedabad has a lot of bird activity in and around the airport, and that could have been the reason for getting people distracted.
Right, sir. But of course, we'll have to wait for the final report from the investigation to ascertain what the exact cause was. But what we do know for now is that we've recovered the black box, and we also know that Boeing has also sent a technical team to help with the investigation. So, sir, given that information, help us understand what would the next few hours or perhaps days look like in terms of procedure and the timeline that's in place to make sense of the situation.
Okay, so black box is a device which has digital flight data recorder. It records last 25 hours of flight data, and it records almost 1,000 plus parameters. There is also a cockpit voice recorder that records whatever is the cockpit conversation or conversation with the ATC or any noise, additional noise in the cabin area. So together, these help in postmortem of the accident. Since the accident has happened and it's a high value investigation that will happen, Boeing, multiple insurance agencies, multiple agencies like FAA from USA, then UK, India, all these safety boards will meet, and then this black box will be ripped apart and the data will be downloaded. So after the data is downloaded, they will make a copy of it and carry out the analysis as to what happened. And only then we will come to know where the engine's producing the required amount of thrust, where the control surfaces at the required deflection or not? Was there any bird hit that caused engines to have a variation of performance?
Right.
All these things we will come to know, but it won't happen within 72 hours.
Absolutely. So, and to get a more comprehensive picture, we have with us our principal correspondent Disha Shah, and she's joining us from Ahmedabad. Disha, what's the latest you're picking from the ground right now?
Well, certainly now, since the rescue operations on the ground level has come to an end, the next priority and the course of action is to speed up the DNA sample test process, and we are right inside the civil hospital and right outside the DNA lab that has been set up right here inside the civil hospital. And this hospital is known as the Asia's biggest hospital. It is just 1.5 kilometers from the crash site. So what we know so far, that all the relatives of the victims have come from across the country, and they are there right inside that door. Hundreds of them have come from across the country, and they are here to give the DNA test samples. What we are being told, more than 600 samples have been collected today so far, and throughout the day this process will continue, because after the rescue operations are over, the next priority focus for them is to identify the passengers. Because remember, yesterday the authorities claim that the passengers on the board and even from the hostel, they recovered dead bodies which were partially burnt or fully burnt. So it is very impossible to recognize and identify the passenger, and hence the DNA sample will only help them to identify. And what we are also being told, that the relatives of the British nationals will be coming and reaching here by tonight or maximum by tomorrow, and they will also give their DNA samples for the same. Remember, this is a huge incident that has sent shockwaves not only to Ahmedabad but entire state and even entire country for that matter. Just a while ago, the health minister and the home minister of the state visited the DNA lab right here at the civil hospital, and they took the stock of the situation. They have even alerted the resident doctors who are helping here 24/7 to just take a look and speed up the entire process, as we say. And the next, of course, course of action is the technical team that is working on the ground, assessing the entire situation. They are trying to find the fault as to what really happened, what caused the accident. And this, you can see, is the accident this is the civil hospital where I am standing. Here hundreds of relatives are patiently waiting to actually get some updates about their loved ones, about what exactly has happened to them, because there is no update at all as far as from the authorities are concerned. Here on my right, you can see there are some relatives who are patiently waiting to get some update from the medical authorities here or from the government authorities. As you can see, the relatives here are waiting for more than 20 hours since the incident has taken place. So on the ground, the forensic team has reached the spot, the crash site, and they are collecting the evidences. The central agencies are also included in collecting the evidences, every single trace for that matter. And the technical team is working, and right here, what you can see, the resident doctors are working along with the police personnel, so local administration, who are trying to speed up the DNA test sample process.
Right, thanks Disha for getting us and our viewers up to speed about the latest developments. And also thank you so much, Captain Ehsan Khalid, for sharing your perspective with us.